This video is mostly going to cover leaks, but also some additional released information that came from Evo Square on her channel in her most recent video that kind of ties into the leaks. Probably the information is now publicly available because it leaked previous to that video, so I assume she's been given the go-ahead to release it officially. The leaks stem from two YouTubers who released gameplay footage they weren't supposed to, which has subsequently been taken down by Frontier. The leaks that have remained are essentially all screen grabs from these videos that have been posted on Reddit. So I'll just go through these and summarize them. They're kind of in two categories. The first one is like the world map and the campaign, and the second is a bunch of screenshots about the breeding systems in the game. We'll go through the campaign information first. This is all essentially just recap from Evo Square's video, although we have the screen grab she wasn't allowed to show. First, we have the world map here. So this is the kind of the home base for the campaign, it seems. You can see all the different locations you have available. You can see your total global progress on star unlocks overall. You can see your reputation. You can see the levels where the reputations seem to unlock different rewards. And we get a general description here of the campaign. So it seems like you'll be going from park to park, maybe in a linear unlock pattern, accumulating these stars depending on your progress within the individual parks, which will unlock further rewards. We can see down here at the bottom the global progress from the demo that was showed is 20 out of 50 total stars. And we can see that 30 stars and 100 reputation with each industry sector and completing objectives in Southern Europe will gain new clients, which presumably means it'll unlock new maps. It's not really clear if these 9 maps are currently all unlocked at this point in the campaign, and then this description here in global progress is unlocking the 10th map, which we know exists. We know there's a 10th map because we can see 9 map icons, the 9 we know about. Each of them is worth 5 stars, but the global progress is out of 50. So there's definitely at least one more secret map. This could be maybe the island from Jurassic World Rebirth, if they want to integrate it directly into the base game, or if this is some sort of like attachment point for a subsequent DLC. I don't think they would make the base game campaign have a hole in it for DLC to plug in later. That's a pretty dick move, but it's possible. It's also possible this 10th location is like Isla Sorna or Jurassic Park San Diego or something like that. Something from the franchise of greater significance to serve as like a secret 10th level at the end or something. Who knows? It could also just be an arbitrary new location of no significance. It just happens to be the 10th one and they just haven't shown it off for whatever reason. Maybe it's not complete yet. It is worth noting that this global progress section in the corner of the screen does say new clients, plural. Evo Square speculates that this could mean that there's more than one map left after these 9. I'm not convinced. I think the 50 stars gives us a pretty rigorous count. The requirement for reputation also strongly implies that all 3 European locations are currently unlocked and collectively considered Southern Europe. It doesn't make sense to max out all of your reputations before even starting like the 9th map, right? I think the pluralization of clients here is more referring to a singular organization or a group that is hiring us to develop this 10th map. As we'll see in the upcoming map descriptions, each map belongs to a new client or group of clients. So this whole situation tracks, even if the pluralization of clients in this context feels a little weird. You can also see on the map that if you look at into the individual locations, they have a little like ID number underneath the label. And I think this is actually showing additional information about the maps. We can see beneath Montana, we have BA. This is the Montana Badlands, so I think BA stands for Badlands. Nevada has CC. We know the decoration set is called the Clark County decoration set, so that's what CC stands for. Hawaii has KU, so my first thought was one of the islands. But I'm going to butcher the pronunciation here. The K island in Hawaii is Kauai. Kauai. However you pronounce that. Not KU, it goes KA. So I don't think that's actually the island name. What I think that might be is the filming location of Jurassic Park, Kualoa Ranch on Oahu, because that starts with KU. That's a pretty neat reference if that's what the KU is for. If we're actually building a dinosaur reserve at the location where they filmed Jurassic Park, that is incredible. I've got no earthly idea what the significance of NT for Indonesia could be. SI could stand for Sichuan, maybe, which is like the region of China that kind of corresponds to that part of the map. For Japan, the only thing I can think of for KA is Kanto, which is a prefecture and where the Pokemon games take place, but like it's a real place as well. So maybe we're going to Kanto. For the European locations, we have confirmation that the Dolomites is actually Biosyn Sanctuary, and look right there in the little ID tag, it says BS. Malta is SA. If we look at the 3 Malta maps from JWE2, one of them was San Albertus, so this is probably San Albertus again. And then if we look at the Azores, we got AA in the ID. That may just be like the Azores Archipelago. I couldn't figure out anything about a location, like one of the particular islands or anything else that had AA as like the initials or anything. So it may just be the archipelago. Maps all have these little description cards that come with them. Evo Square speculates that we probably start in the Montana Badlands. I think she's likely correct about that. This comes from the park being 1, 5-starred, and 2, the description. We know Cabot Finch is running the DIN, the Dinosaur Integration Network, and the Badlands is the only map that actually describes Cabot Finch. So it probably makes sense that we get introduced to the DIN and Cabot Finch in the first map. We do some objectives there, and then we get access to the larger world, and we pick up additional clients to work for outside of, Cabot Finch. Montana Badlands is, of course, where Alan Grant is doing his dig for the Velociraptor in the original movie. This is assuredly a reference to that. As we can see here, the description is that Cabot Finch has purchased land that is rich in paleo history as a last-ditch effort to showcase what his new company, the Dinosaur Integration Network, can do. The description for Vegas says a hastily built attraction near Las Vegas once advertised low prices for a close-up flying reptile experience. The facility met a quick end, and the new owner of the land needs help making this site a more ethical success. The final North American location is Hawaii, with a description that a client wants to create a sustainable breeding program to help dinosaurs overcome their difficulty adapting to most of the world. A leading paleoecologist is already on board, but the site needs far more support if it's to achieve its goals. Hawaii is interesting. This description may tie in with Rebirth. This may be an indication that this campaign doesn't necessarily just serve as a follow-up to Dominion, but actually serves as a way to close the gap between Dominion and Rebirth, which makes a lot of sense. It seems like this location and others may essentially show how the dinosaurs are struggling to survive in the world and how they're like dying off in the lead up to Rebirth. There will be other descriptions here we'll see for some of the other levels in the campaign that also have this kind of similar vibe of like leading from the seemingly flourishing dinosaurs of Dominion to the depleted population of Rebirth. We have only one of the leaked cards for Asia, which is the China card. The objectives state a worldwide conservation society has been working tirelessly to provide a place where prehistoric creatures can live and thrive. They've secured this spacious site, but they need help creating a true sanctuary. The other 2 we can get descriptions of from Evo Square's video. For Japan, the description is, what was intended to be the next Jurassic World is now a theme park fallen to chaos. The land was quickly sold off, and the new owner has entrusted DIN with creating the paleo theme park the set was always meant to be. Japan is kind of another meta inclusion here. In the original movie, there was mention of Jurassic Park Europe and Jurassic Park Japan, with Jurassic Park Europe being in the Azores, which is another map in JWE3, and then Japan being like an island near Guam or something. While this is no doubt included in part as a reference to Jurassic Park Japan, they have changed it to be in mainland, quote-unquote, Japan. And I would just guess that the reason for this is to motivate the cherry tree aesthetic they've chosen for the environment of that park. There's also the fun reference here to the idea of Jurassic Park Japan by saying that this was what was intended to be the next Jurassic World. So they've gone ahead and introduced the idea of Jurassic World Japan, which is clearly a direct reference to Jurassic Park Japan, that's great. That's fun. I really like all the meta narrative choices they're making for like where these campaign maps take place. The description for Indonesia is another one that makes some pretty clear references to Rebirth. The description goes as follows: reports of disease in wild dinosaur populations has a client worried, especially with a tourist hotspot nearby. They've enlisted DIN to help set up a facility that can both house dinosaurs and treat any outbreaks that arise. So maybe a map that's really like disease heavy. And it may actually have mild spoilers for Rebirth. It may be not just that the dinosaurs are struggling to adapt to the world, but perhaps they're actually dying off from disease. Maybe DX. Maybe we're bringing DX into the film franchise. DX is, of course, from the Lost World novel. For Malta, we have the objective that an ex-purveyor of rare animals developed an obsession with dinosaurs, and they fell into deep debt with the illegal night market to fuel that obsession. DIN has been hired to help pay off that debt and create the prehistoric animal sanctuary the client always wanted. So the night market is, of course, the black market from Dominion, which makes sense. The presence of a Malta map pretty much always meant there was going to be a Dominion tie-in here, right? And that trend continues with the inclusion of Biosin Sanctuary. So Biosin Sanctuary is the Dolomites map. The description is that the Biosin Sanctuary is set to expand, and the agency overseeing the site wants it to be an idyllic, natural, and educational facility. DIN has been hired to make that vision a reality. So we get to see kind of a peek, a non-canon peek, into what the sanctuary becomes after it's taken out of Biosin's hands. That's very cool. Finally, we have the description for the Azores Archipelago. It's literally called the Azores Archipelago. I totally missed this when I was talking about the AA earlier. It's literally on the card. Wow, God damn it. Okay, so we confirmed what AA means. Wanting to pay homage to John Hammond's incredible vision, the owner of this land has hired DIN to create a European paleo theme park. The site needs to be more secure than any park before while operating with limited space. So this is pretty clearly a direct reference to Jurassic Park Europe. That would literally say John Hammond's name in the description. And it's also being phrased specifically as a theme park and not as like a sanctuary. So yeah, pretty cool. That's kind of all the information we have on the campaign and the maps for now. But we can also talk about some of the breeding systems. First up, we have a nice shot of the dinosaur UI for a female Triceratops. We can see that the little name tags they give the animals have been changed now to include the gender, TRCF, Triceratops female. We get a chart of the fertility. We knew from previous descriptions that they had like a double peak for at least the Triceratops, and we can now see how that works. As the animal ages, it's got kind of this primary big peak for the main window of fertility, and then a smaller secondary peak later on. We have a generation counter, so we will know like if a dinosaur has been wild bred or not. We've got contraceptives, so it looks like you can actually make it so your dinosaurs are unable to breed on an individual dinosaur by dinosaur basis. So this would allow you to do some selective breeding through generations to try and pass along potentially traits. This could be a very interesting and deep system. I'm very interested to see what this does in action. We've got fertility modifiers. So I think essentially this is describing the list that follows this of the different conditions that need to be met or at least partially met to have the possibility for them to breed, right? So we have no available nests, so I think that immediately blocks out breeding being a thing. Recent eggs, no. This probably describes a cooldown on how fast they can breed, right? They can't just infinitely continuously pop out eggs. This has to go on cooldown essentially, so they don't, immediately lay more eggs. Health and comfort, we know comfort has to be good and the animal has to be healthy for it to breed, so that's what's describing there. Increased compatibility trait, looks like that'll be like a new genetic trait, which will just essentially, I think this is increasing the possibility for males and females to find each other essentially and have higher odds of initiating the act of breeding. The increased fertility trait seems to be another new genetic trait, which obviously ties into the fertility chart we can see at the top there and just increases the window that the female is fertile for, I would guess. Then we can see sandbox breeding always succeeds. So it looks like you can set. So this is confirming a few things, right? This is confirming one, that we have sandbox settings that interact with the animal breeding systems, which is good for people who play sandbox. But two, this implies the return of all those on-off sandbox toggles, right? This is a concern people have. Are we actually going to get all the different little switches we can turn on and off for different mechanics in the game back in sandbox? And I think the fact that we can already see a new one of those sort of toggles here in the shot really strongly implies that like all those sandbox settings are probably coming back. I don't think we need to worry too much about sandbox being stripped down from what it is in the current JWE2 state, and I think it would be really strange for them to do that anyway. The final thing we can see here at the very bottom is this breeding heat map, which is probably going to show you like the areas where breeding can happen. We know that some animals will only breed if they are away from the guests. I think Tyrannosaurus was like that, if I remember correctly. They won't breed if they're in view. So I would assume the heat map is going to like bring up the enclosure. It's going to show you the areas of the enclosure that, you know, have the greatest odds for the animals within that particular area to breed, and then the areas really won't. And probably that implies that your animals will actually have to physically find each other to initiate breeding in an area that is conducive to that. It's not going to be as simple as like they'll be on opposite sides of the enclosure and ta-da, the female is pregnant. They're pregnante. there's got to be more to it. They actually have to like find each other and like actually be together somewhere in the exhibit. So that's pretty cool for like immersion purposes. That makes a lot of sense. We also know that the nests are placeable objects that are needed for the animals to breed and that they come in different styles depending on the size of the animal. Now we have a shot that shows us those nests. It looks like there's only 5 nests in the game. Presumably these are small, medium, large, pterosaurs, and aquatics. Obviously the bottom one there, which is like a stand of kelp, is the aquatic one. It's possible this is used for live birth too. Some animals may just swim into the kelp and then swim out with babies. A way for them to mask the act of birthing. A little hard to tell with the other nests which ones are small, medium, large, and which one's pterosaurs. My expectation is if you look at the 3 nests, there's 3 that are very similar with this kind of nest surrounded by rock. I suspect that those are the land nests, the small, medium, and large animal nests. Since they're in the same style, that kind of makes sense. By process of elimination, it leaves the flat patch of dirt nest for the pterosaurs. I don't know why that one is the way it is. It looks kind of weird. The ring around the outside is very strange. We'll probably have to see that in action to understand why it looks the way it does. Of course, the icons we have for these nests don't really match the Triceratops nest we've seen in game, where we can't really see the eggs or anything. There's kind of a bunch of vegetation on that, so I don't really know what the deal with that is either. Finally, we have a sequence of screen caps that show how the egg laying works. Essentially, the Triceratops just walks up to the nest and then backs itself up to it, deposits eggs in a way that you can't see, and then later the babies just kind of walk out of the bushes. So yeah, abstracted. I guess they don't want things to be too realistic or too graphic. So yeah, that's all the new information I could find. We'll of course cover any further leaks if anything else does crop up or any new official information. Also want to add a little addendum to my speculation video on what animals make the cut. I saw a comment on Reddit that I think actually is completely on the money. And the point they brought up is, you know, there's 7 hybrids. There's 7 animals that don't breed, right? But my thought process during the video was always, well, why would they add in the hybrids? Nobody likes those, right? We don't care about Stegoceratops. Who needs him in the game? But on the flip side, if those animals don't breed and they don't have male-female dimorphic variations, then they can literally just port the existing animals in from 2 to 3 for the hybrids without any additional work. And another point in favor of doing that is the secret species pack in JWE2 is very controversial because they resold us 3 animals we already had from the previous game, right? Who is going to buy the hybrids a 3rd time, right? If they make you pay for the hybrids in JWE3 as well, that's kind of an extra dick move. We're already getting animals like recycled. It doesn't make sense for them to be repackaged into a DLC again. So my new opinion is that all the hybrids will be in JWE3 at release. Those are the animals that are specifically listed as not having family units. Small animals are not included in that. They will breed, but they probably won't have babies. So I think the small animals actually fall on the other side of how we did the chart of being in the 77 that do breed. And the ones that are antinatalists are just the ones that have no additional models. They are these single model animals that do not have babies and do not have dimorphic forms. All right, well, that'll be the end for this video. If you made it to the end and you feel like throwing me a like and a comment, that'd be great. The channel's been growing really nicely since the JWE3 trailer dropped, and we really want to keep that momentum up. That'd be huge. So I would really appreciate if you'd help me out. Well, thanks. I'll catch you all in the next video.